Hey guys, it's Eric.
It's Tim.
I'm John.
We are D&D Miniature Board Games. Hey, so we got done playing a few games of Raid on Takao. A nice little game from Mizo Games. And stay tuned because we're going to talk about it.
Maybe.
After.
Hey, so as I was saying, we got done. We played this a few times, have tried it out. And you know what? We're just going to sit down. We're going to talk about it, give some scores. We score on rulebook, components, graphics and artwork, replayability, and overall fun.
Fun!
We have a 1 to 5 scoring system, and then we match all those scores together and give an overall score for the group. Graphics and artwork, I gave it a 5. Tim, what did you give it?
I'll have to disagree with you there, Eric. I gave it 5.
And John, what'd you do?
I gave it a 4.
Seriously? Oh, yeah, you did.
Personally, I love the artwork on this from the start, where with the front of the box, which is a metal box. Great artwork on this. The board is interesting to look at. The character figures, which are standees, have nice artwork, and right down to the character dashboards.
And the backs of them.
John, did you have anything to say about artwork since you seem to not agree with us?
Well, no, while a 4 is still... Sorry, let me sit up very straight in my seat and talk intellectual now. No, while I thought it was definitely above average and great, there was just a few things that, just looking through, I thought they could have done a few things better. Some of the tokens, the bomb tokens, to me, they could have been a little bit, a little more detailed on that. The overall colors are going through the city on the board. To me, while it was good, it just didn't have that overall wow. Whereas like the game boards that were showing out, or if you look at the art that was on there, to me the colors just popped more. It was more detailed. I just felt there was a few areas that didn't quite have it. They reached that 5 on a few wow factor. And I just thought it was above average. It was good. It was still good. It's good.
I thought maybe it was because the board picture, the board looks a little small.
No.
Yeah, well, you killed the boar.
No, the bomb killed the boar.
He took the boar with him there.
He has to.
There wasn't enough yams in the yam card.
You notice you don't have to feed him?
Rule book. Listen, I gave rulebook a 3. John?
I gave rulebook a 3 as well.
I'll concur with that.
I'm gonna give my reasons, and then Tim, if you want, I know you had some things, but they may be similar. It wasn't a bad rulebook. That's why I stayed with average. It loses things in its translation, though. One, the entanglement cards. It doesn't really explain when you get the extra effects with the entanglement cards. It doesn't explain in the English version of the rule book when you get to use that extra effect. Is it part of your free act? Does it become part of your free actions? Is it add on to the action it's going with? Another thing in the English version of the rule book, it was very hard to understand how the air raid phase works. It sounded like if you rolled the dice and it rolled 3, well, the spots that it hit got bombed. But in reality, it's if it lands in one spot on the board, it goes across the whole swab. The last thing, I think it was just really just in translation that was the big issue. Some of the things that to the creators were like, well, of course, this is how this works. To those of us reading it, translated to an English version, it was like lacking. Still a really good rule book, still a playable game by the rule book, but entanglement cards, the air raid phase just needs to be explained a little bit better, and that's why I couldn't go above a 3, but I didn't go below because I don't think it's unplayable by the
No.
rule book.
No.
So it's just an average score with the rule
Yeah.
book.
Yeah, I really think that if it had been more accurate in describing how certain things are supposed to play, then this rule book could be, a good 4. I mean, it's not a bad rule book at all, but there just has to be the translation issue. That's the only thing that I could really think of, because when they explained it to us after the fact,
It made sense.
right. So I mean, I think it was just the translation situation.
No, I agree with what you guys are saying, and part of that, I really was reliant on looking at the player reference card, just because as you're going through reading the cards, reading through the book, they use a lot of the symbols in as you're reading the sentence, and if you don't have that symbol memorized in your head, you're like, wait a minute, what does that mean? Is that the scenario phase, or is that the air raid phase?
Upside to it is that you learn some characters.
You're right. You do learn it. So I mean, so it isn't so that it's something like I'm saying you can play it. It's just you have to take a second, that you have to flip back until you kind of have that little memorized. And I really was sitting there. I had to keep this very handy, and like, oh yeah, that means that's only during the scenario phase, because the card may not say it. And while that's somewhat of the rules, you're going in. I'm just like, wait a minute.
You had to keep going
Where
back
was
and
it
look at the symbol.
Mm-hmm.
And since we don't use those symbols, it was very hard for that to stick into our heads.
Right. So that was kind of my thing as I was flipping around. I was like, wait, what is that? What did that symbol mean? Where was I at? Yeah.
So components. I gave a 4 on components.
I gave components a 5.
I'll stand with a 5.
I gave an above average. The one thing I really love is the bomber tokens.
Mm-hmm.
I love the bomber tokens.
Absolute sale.
But everything else it was above average. It was good. I like the bomber. I really love the bomber tokens.
And guess what? I like the bomber tokens too.
I'll chip in on that though. But not only is the bomber tokens awesome, think about the difference here. You have bomber tokens, and then the one die in the entire box.
Wooden.
It's wooden.
And then the box itself is a metal tin.
Right.
And I took this into components as well.
So did I, because your game is going to be completely protected, and you're not going to have to worry about the ends of the box tearing off.
And the lid cracking.
And also, if you look, the
dashboards
are good. They have like a waxy sealant almost on it.
Same with the standees. That was the thing that I was looking at. A lot of times you get the standees, they're gonna wear out, and they're very flimsy.
Oh, and the characters fall out of the standees.
These actually, for a standee, it's thick enough to where it's gonna last being played, which was something I was like, okay, that's nice, because you're gonna have your hands all over it, moving it around. The tokens were thick; they weren't thin, and
they popped out real nice too.
Cards are good quality.
Yeah.
This is they put some money into this.
And the board to me was actually a little thicker than some of the boards that we've in the games we've had recently.
And look at how flat it lays.
Yeah, it's got a good crease point that flattens right out, and you don't have part of it popping up on edges.
Because with this one, with all the tokens you got to lay all over this thing, that would suck if it keeps sliding. So yeah, they definitely put a lot of money into the production of this. So,
replayability. I gave 4.
I gave a 4.
You cheated. You had to look.
Well, actually, I saw something on the game board. It was a stowaway. I needed to kill it.
I gave it a 5.
One of the I gave it above average. 4 is above average on the score. One of the things that I felt that caused the replayability to be above average is the bombers. Your air raid going through, you never know where it's going to hit. You don't know how many territories it's going to hit. You don't know when it's going to cross another territory. You don't know when it's going to hit two characters and their two animals. The air raid pushes it. It's a 2 to 6 player game, but you have 8 characters, which, depending on how many people you have playing, depends on you may never have the same characters playing on the game for a little bit. This game also has the possibility, and I know it sounds strange, but you could have an expansion to this game. You could expand it with more characters, and you have just a pack with, say, 4 more characters, and it wouldn't even be that big. It'd just be the player dashboards and the characters, or an expansion with new resource cards.
New scenario cards, new Bane cards.
But even without that, just with the Doom port, you have the way the Bane cards come out, it gives you replayability. And then if you get into the other ones, which is like the aircraft search, or the search for survivors, the aircraft repair, they've got different cards with them. But you could also come out with something different for the fulfillment cards. Right. You have the 3 cards that, if you are not wanting to play hard like we were tonight, you have the 3 cards that once per game you can utilize that card and its effects and negates something really bad.
Yeah, the miracle cards.
The miracle cards. There are things that allow this replayability to be above average in my book.
I agree. Definitely above average. The cards, as all you mentioned, the point for me that just the reason why I didn't go with a 5 had to do with the fulfillment cards, because while the fulfillment cards are one of the major areas that you're going through, and there are different ways to go through. You have your 3 different fulfillment, regret, and what was it, like persistence or something like
persistence.
That. Of going through as you're playing, if you play the same character, you kind of know what your fulfillment is of going through. So for that, I just that was the thing that held me back from being a 5 there. But again, an expansion or something of that nature would be easily done. It's just a card change, and you're right there doing it. So definitely above average.
Well, my whole thing is, and you can go back through reviews and you'll find me say it before. Randomization, a game that can change its randomization each time you play it. Even if you played it 1,000 times in a row, will always get a great score for me, because when it comes to replayability, this thing to be able to change each time you play, I think is just, you can go in with the mindset of, what you need to do and get your fulfillments and stuff like that. But guess what? The bomber could throw you off. The search cards, you might get Bane cards, scenario cards, something like that. There's a number of things that could make this game unique each and every time you play it.
Well, just not knowing, you got in your 4 areas, there were 4 of us playing tonight, so we had 4 item card resource cards in the search areas. Well, if you don't get food in the first 2 or 3 search areas you go to, you're done. I mean, you're standing there going like this, looking for bombs, because that's about all you got left to do.
Finish me off!
Yeah, bring it. Kill the bacon.
Hey, final score we do is on overall fun. How much fun we have playing the game. Mine was a 5.
Mine was a 5.
Man, I went with a 2. No, mine was a 5.
5!
Listen, this is one of those games that it's fun. You pull it out, you play it, and it's not something that's going to collect dust on the shelves. It's not hard to teach somebody how to play it. I think John, you came in the first time we played it tonight and learned how in the first round. You had some questions throughout the rest of the game, but for the most part, it's not hard to pick up, and then you're having fun because you already picked up the basics.
Right.
Tim and I, we learned it last week and have played a few games now. And it's always different. In the adding of the adding of other players, because it's 2 to 6 player, it
changes the aspect of the game.
It does, but you don't lose the fun either way. You and I had a blast last week just playing it 2 player, but then with 4 players tonight, it was like, oh well.
I still say it made it more difficult for me.
That's because he died with me.
It's because I got bombed.
What do you think, John?
No, it was, to me, it was a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of the things that we were talking about of adding more people, when you're doing a co-op game that has all these random factors that are going to be different, you have to work together. To me, like Tim said, if you watch other stuff, that's the stuff to me that's fun. When you're able to help each other, work there, die together, whatever it is, or be close, be like, yeah, we made it. Oh, crap, we died. I mean, that, whether you live or die in the game, it's about having fun. And, hey, we had fun, even though we died in the last one that we played. Well, you died because we died, because you didn't complete.
Didn't die, and Glenda didn't die.
You died there. There you go.
You guys and your animals croaked.
Beg the difference, sir.
It's
We
all
die,
about
you
the
die.
animals. It's all about the animals.
So-
as far as I'm concerned, though, this is a fun game whether you have 2 or 4 or 6 players. It is a game that I think with, some of these scenarios will be better with more. Some of them will be better with less. But you'll enjoy figuring it out, when you try it. So if you try it with 6 people and the scenario fails real quick, maybe you go back and try it with 3 or 2. So, I mean, the overall fun for this game is really high because of not only the replayability and the randomization and everything like that, but just the effort to try and do everything that you need to do.
You know what, though?
And run away from bombs.
One thing I've noticed, though, like with the fulfillment, there's an overall reason that you get certain fulfillment certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
So that you have one person that can actually do 2 repairs the next round right away. And it's almost kind of like you want that person just running around fixing stuff. The others that can search better go around search and bring food to that person.
Oh, I mean, there are
because you got
points and counterpoints.
If you can
all the characters.
if you can repair 2 spaces, right? So you repair 2 spaces, and then move again, repair 2 more spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So in one round you repair 4 spaces, and then your teammate goes and searches and finds enough food that maybe they get 1, you get 1 type thing,
right? And
then comes over and gives you the food, gives you some
exactly.
food, and they can continue to repair while the other ones continue the missions.
It's
plausible.
right. I mean, it's
it's all the cooperation of the group.
how you play the game.
Right, and it doesn't force you to do that because I guess if you're a person that just didn't want to talk, and you may have an issue, but most people that are going to sit down and play a game, you're going to conversate and talk about it, so it's going to draw you in, and it helps you on the way because it's telling you, do you have this? Oh, you don't have that. Okay, we got to go that. All right, so if I got that, now we got to go there. So that's where it draws you into what's going on.
Well, also too, it's like we wouldn't that last game we played had one of our players realize that they could take a despair and re-roll. You guys may not have died.
Not may not. We would not have.
Wouldn't have died. It's all right though. That's okay. I'm not bitter and angry. Much.
We're sitting up in heaven with our capybara and our wild boar.
That's right. Whatever you're doing with wild boar, we don't want to know.
I'm on my bicycle.
So, anyways, overall score 4.3. So it's 4.3 out of 5 for overall score. As always, support your local gaming. We support
Discover Games.
Fayetteville, Georgia.
Game on, everybody.
Game on, folks.
Game on.
Thanks, Mizo.
Thanks, Mizo.
Thanks, Mizo.